This week on the Deep Leadership Podcast.
Everyone should take a second and look at themselves and say, what am I going to do today to be better than I was yesterday? And if you do that, I think you can really begin to draw your own pathway to your next level of performance.
This episode is brought to you by the Salty Sailor Coffee Company, the official coffee of the Deep Leadership Podcast. Salty Sailor is a veteran-owned coffee brand on a mission to deliver premium, fresh roasted coffee while making a positive impact in the world. Their motto is drink coffee and do good, which reflects their commitment to making amazing coffee and actively supporting the military community. 10% of every order goes to the Navy Marine Corps Relief Society, an organization dedicated to helping sailors, Marines, and their families in times of need. All our listeners get 10% off every order of their amazing coffee by using the discount code DEEP at checkout. So check them out at saltysailorcoffee.com. Welcome to the Deep Leadership Podcast. Today I'm joined by Aaron Salko. Aaron is a sales management professional with the innovative solutions-based company Stephen Gould. He has a demonstrated history of talent development, innovation, creativity, and organizational growth. For more than 2 decades, he is focused on human performance in both career and life in a highly competitive entrepreneurial-based global sales environment with an intense concentration in exploring how science and the mechanisms of human behavior, psychology, social interaction, and human physiology apply to performance. Aaron is the founder and creator of The Ninth Stratum and the author of the book, The Ninth Stratum, Your Guide to High Performance. And I'm excited to have him on the show to talk about how we can all become high performers. So Aaron, welcome to the show.
John, thanks for having me. This is great.
Yeah, it's an honor to meet you. And I'm interested in this subject. And we had a great talk before we pressed record. First of all, tell us, what is the idea behind the Ninth Stratum and what drove you to develop this approach?
Yeah, it dates back a while. Like as we all grow through life, we want to continue to raise our performance in whatever we're trying to do, whether it's sports or school or our career. And I was in my early 30s and I was doing really well in my career, and somebody called me a high performer. It's like, wow. I was like, that's awesome acknowledgement and thank you. And then I began to sort of digest that, and I said, this person called me a high performer, but what does that truly mean? Like, what criteria did they use to determine that I was high performing? And what am I high performing in? Is it my job? Is it my role within my job? Is it tasks that I complete within my role? Am I high performing in life? And I then looked at it in a different way and said, man, it's such a subjective term. This person could basically be setting me up for failure by telling me that I've arrived and that I've hit a pinnacle. And at that moment it was 15 plus years ago when I decided we needed to define what high performance truly meant and come up with a way to measure it so that others could follow a pathway to achieve it.
That makes a lot of sense. And again, like you, I've been told throughout my career, you're a high performer. And again, what does that mean? Because I never felt like I felt there was more to be done, right? I never felt like I had arrived. So like, what does that mean? We talked about, before we press record, this idea of stratums. Explain what the ninth stratum is.
Yeah, the ninth stratum is a concept, and it's the operating level of high performers. It's where you are highly consistent, you're highly proficient, you've developed your own processes, and you can teach them to others. And this is based on anything you do in life, but specifically to the book and the concept of ninth stratum, it's these 45 performance-based skills, that we see. And really the ninth stratum, it's 9 stratums of performance. It goes everywhere, every piece is a learning scale. So it's the first stratum through the ninth stratum is, where are you in the learning, application, and self-mastery of a skill.
And you said something that was kind of interesting. You said there is no 10th stratum. Like that's like perfection, right? And that's just something that we never achieve. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, like I always consider the 10th stratum, when a gymnast hits like the perfect 10, right?
Right.
And for that split second, he or she has attained perfection, but then somebody else comes and does it better. Right. So perfection is fleeting. If it does exist, it exists for a split second, and then you look to improve it again. So there is no 10th stratum. We stopped at the 9th.
I think it makes a lot of sense. And, we were sharing before we press recorded, like my leadership journey that, I've done it for 30 years as a practitioner. And I still feel like there's so much more to learn and I go through a formal education program with the doctorate program. I'm learning like there's so much more to it. And so even though I'm teaching, I teach, I share, I write about leadership. I'm still learning about leadership. So I don't feel like that. I feel like the 10th is not achievable in the terms of leadership. There's always something to learn. There's always a way to get better.
Yeah, and John, that's what makes you high performing in your leadership role. The fact that you've attained a level where you're most likely proficient at it. You know how to be a good leader. You know what the qualities are. You can teach those qualities to others and those steps and processes. Yet you still haven't quenched your thirst for the amount of knowledge that you still haven't gained. So you're still out there searching, and that's a verifiable trait of high performers is they're never satisfied. They're always going, okay, what's next? How can I get better? Self-analysis on a daily basis is one of the traits that we've seen in all high performers.
That's interesting because you think that like the high performers, again, if you listen to like I listen to comedians, you listen to actors, you listen to like for example, Neil Peart, who was the drummer for Rush, who was considered
Yeah.
like the best rock drummer in the history of like rock and roll, and he was still taking drum lessons up until the time he died. And it's
Yeah.
like he must be the 10th, he must be at the 10th stratum, but yet he's again always learning, always trying to perfect his craft and never felt satisfied with where he was. And I think that's phenomenal. And those are our high performers. Those are the people that are just they have this unquenchable desire to just keep getting better and keep learning. And that's really interesting.
Yeah, 100%. And like, on a daily basis, we self-analyze, right? Okay, what are we really good at? What do we do well today? And that feels good to us. We know what we did well. We know what we're good at. What doesn't feel so well to us is what do we really screw up today? Like
Yeah.
what do we need work on? And that's when you can really lean into attaining that level of high performance is when you start to analyze where your deficiencies are and then seek the knowledge or coaching or instruction to begin to practice getting better at those deficiencies. And that's, the rising tide raises all ship, right? So when
Yeah.
you see a deficiency of one skill and you raise that skill, well, it also raises a couple other skills that relate to it.
Yeah, exactly. Like as I was mentioning, going back to school, like I'm a much better writer than I used to be, and I've written 3 books. Now I feel like maybe those 3 books weren't my best. I've become a better writer because of studying leadership, and so
Yeah.
now my next book will be amazing, because I've
Yeah.
become much better at writing after 300 papers I've written in, 3 years.
Oh,
So
I love to write, but when I started writing this book, man, I was like, wow, I'm out of my league. I got a coach. I got an editor who was awesome, and he was great with feedback, and he helped me find my writing style. And without him, that book wouldn't be hopefully as good as I hope everybody thinks it is and appreciates it for.
I love that you've done that because I mean we can be experts in our field, but I think when you go into something like writing a book, like for me, it was the first time I ever wrote a book. I wanted to make it as best I could, and so I did. I hired a coach. I had an editor, and yeah, I brought people in who are experts in the field because that's not my expertise, and I wanted to make a good point. So my hats off to you. And we should do that in life. Like when you're doing something that you've never done before, or you're in a role that's very critical, find yourself a coach, find yourself a mentor, find an expert that can guide you and be your Yoda. I used to call my writing coach my Yoda because he was just he's always asking me questions. I'm like, like just give me the answer. He would always ask me questions.
Yeah.
Do you think
Yeah.
this could be better? And I'm like, yeah, well, I don't know, you tell me. So
Mine would say to me, Aaron, you got to stop repeating yourself. You're saying the same
yeah,
sentence. I'm like,
yeah.
Roger that. Done. Okay.
It's good to have that feedback.
Yeah. But it's John, you hit on something that's really important too, is, as we, a lot of people will attempt to do something new and they're not good at it and they stop.
Mm,
Or they've attained the knowledge and they're so scared to put the boots in the ground and actually try it for being afraid to maybe make a mistake or look foolish. That's in the 9 strands of performance, that's the 5th stratum where you've got the knowledge, but you just don't want to, put it out there because you're afraid to make a mistake. And most high performers and especially leaders, when you get good at getting from the fifth stratum to the sixth stratum is when you actually try it, you almost begin to like it. You're like, you look for something new to try and you're like, okay, give me a coach, somebody teach me this. And then you learn it and you go, okay, I'm going to try it the first time. And man, it's a disaster. And you're like, all right, that was supposed to be a disaster. That's cool. Let's do it again. And let's do it again until we get highly proficient at it. And that's, we see this all the time in the people that are high performing in life.
I love that. Yeah. Well, it's good. It's good to know, because I feel like I've loved to do that throughout my life, is just tackle something that I never thought I could do and see what happens. And, sometimes I fall on my face, and I have many times. This is my second podcast. The first one didn't really grow, and this one has grown. So yeah. So people say, well, yeah, how'd you get a successful podcast? Well, I did one that wasn't successful first. So I learned what not to do. Right. So
absolutely.
So one of the questions I have for you, what separates performance-based skills from like other hard career skills? Like performance-based skills is its own entity, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So we developed a criteria for the performance-based skills. They had to be taught, learned, applied, and improved upon. So there's a criteria that has to be held to. And what we see is the performance-based skills are different than the hard career skills. Google did a great study on this. The founders of Google, they actually wrote an algorithm and studied all their business decisions they made from 1998 on the performance of people and why the high performers stayed in Google and how they got to that level. And the business decisions were like promotion, demotion, termination, and like the people who really got promoted to the high levels. And they found that it wasn't about STEM or the hard career skills they hired for. It was about empathy, composure, critical thinking, like all these other skills that come to light that are outside of the career-based skills. And what that determination was, this study is recent, it's about two years ago. What they determined was the soft skills drive performance. But I hate the word soft skills. And so we've coined them performance-based skills. And these are the skills that, if you look at two people that maybe went to the same high school, got the same grades, same teachers, went to the same college, same grades, same teachers, got into the career, and one outperforms the other. Well, it wasn't because one was smarter, one had better career skills. One was higher and had more proficiency in the performance-based skills. So
I love that you break that out and you call it something different. That's one of my frustrations with the leadership journey, is that we call a lot of the things that make up a good leader as soft skills, like you mentioned, empathy, listening skills, being able to connect with people. These are like not taught in MBA courses, right? They're not, but they're really important for for the people that are really successful in leadership. They have really good soft skills. But It seems as if when we say soft, then we're like, well, that's not good. We have to have all hard skills if we want to be a successful leader. But you call them performance-based skills, which I love that, because it gives it a more appropriate description of what they are. It's like, these are the things that lead to high performance. And it's not your ability to read a P&L statement or understand a cash flow statement, although those are important when you're running a business. But that's not what's going to differentiate your business success compared to your competitions, right? Because there's other guys that can read a P&L statement at the other guys. Your ability to understand your environment, to work with your employees, to find your competitive advantage, to exploit that in the marketplace. Those are skills. Those are performance-based skills that are not taught necessarily in MBA programs.
None of these are taught. That was the thing that we realized, like, wow, we need to start teaching this. Like, we need to start teaching this at the high school level, because these are like life skills. These are the things your mom and dad tell you, but when you get in the workplace, nobody's going to tell you.
Yeah.
But we defined 45 of them, and they span. We sought to really uncover the essence of human performance. So it's not just about career; it's about life. And so we defined 45 of them, and then we broke them into categories of mentality, cognitive abilities, mastery of emotion, social interaction. And guess what the last one was? Because nobody guesses this last one.
Oh, let's see. I don't know. You mentioned social interaction. I think that was one I was thinking about. I don't know. I'm going to leave.
Sorry, personal health.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Sleep quality, purposeful nutrition, physical activity, personal appearance, and yeah, I think I got all of them.
That's
there's
great. I mean, it's something we talk about on this show a lot. Is just the idea of leading yourself first. And like, if you can't, if you have to have like spiritual strength, physical strength,
mental
you have to have
well-being.
mental strength, financial strength if you want to lead others. Because, a good friend of mine, John Berberger, always says if you're on stage as a leader, but if your backstage is a mess, you're not going to be performing at your best, right? So you got to get your backstage in order too, so you can get on stage and you can perform at your best. And it
That is
means
so
you have to have a supportive infrastructure of people that support you, because you have relationships with them. So it means you have to have a good relationship with your spouse and to your family members and your children, and you have to have your stuff in order if you're going to be leading out front. You need all that to be a high performer. So it's interesting.
Well, how
Yeah,
many of us act one way in the career, and then we get home, we act a completely different way? I mean,
exactly,
very,
exactly. Yeah, no, it's really important. So it's interesting that health and fitness and falls into that category as well, because I do think that that's a big part of it. And I know the best leaders they take care of themselves too. They don't let that go, And so I have a routine, for example, and everybody knows, they listen to the podcast. I get up at 4 a.m. every morning. I work out
love
every
it.
morning. That's just what I do, right? I'm
You get your
56 years
exercise
old.
in.
What's that?
You get your exercise in at 4 a.m. or what are you doing at 4 a.m.?
Yeah, so from 4 to 5, I'm usually writing and researching, and then at 5 to 6, I'm working out, and then but I do that every morning, and so I have that time to think, and I have a time to, so you work the brain, work the body, and then get ready and go to work and run the company. So,
Yeah,
but
man.
you get that done first thing in the morning, and then it's done, and so you're not worried about it at night trying to get a workout in, but you get the family time when you get home. So
It's an amazing discipline. We call it the 5 daily wins, which is, did you wake up at the alarm without hitting the snooze button, right?
yeah,
Did you get your personal fitness in? Did you get your personal nutrition in? Did you read? What are you reading? What are you writing? Right.
yeah,
And the last one is, did you stay off of social media, the cell phones, even the work emails until the bell rings to go to work? Because
yeah,
we really look at it, and we have 3 hours before we go to work. Yeah, it's a little painful to get up at 4 a.m. in the morning. I get it. But think about the amount of hours that are just for you to focus on you and
yeah,
only you. And now
yeah,
multiply that across an entire year. Do you know the growth people can get if they really truly realize that and put that practice into play? It's
yeah.
amazing.
It really is. It really is. And so a lot of people will say to me, like when I'm on podcasts, they're like, how do you do all that you do? It's like, well, I get up early and I just have discipline, and I've had it for a long time. And that's how I've been able to do what I do.
Yeah.
And I love it. And I actually said to my wife the other day, I said, I wish I didn't have to sleep, because there's so many things, more things I want to do. And she's like, you're crazy. I'm like, I know I'm crazy, but, but if I could figure out not to sleep, I'd get an extra, 6 hours every day to get stuff
Absolutely.
done.
So
So,
true. Oh
so
my God, it's pretty funny. I like it.
um, so one of the things you say in the book is you speak about studying low performers, and that's kind of interesting. So why did you look at low performers in this research?
Yeah, I think everybody who's studied human performance or high performance, they always look to who? The Mark Cubans, the Tiger
Yeah,
Woods, the Kobe Bryants, and you're like, yeah, okay, I know what that person does, and I can track, how they operate on a daily basis and what they do. And we did that. We absolutely did that. And we studied high performers that were in my network and within my company, and the companies that we dealt with. And it didn't matter the role, it could be a line worker, and we're like, yeah, okay, that's a high performing line worker right there. They're good at their job. But there was something missing. And we had all these skills once we studied the high performers, and we're like, something's missing. And so we then shifted our focus to study the low performers, because I didn't hire great, and I had a lot of people who failed under me. I mean, I really did, and it was bad hires, bad coaching, whatever it might be. But began to look at the low performers and why they failed. What held them back? What were the roadblocks that they hit that they didn't get over? And when we did that, the amount of skills that came to the table were outstanding, because it's so you find skills, the deficiencies of skills are more prevalent than the ones we study that are like the high performing people and the skills that they exude. So it brought to light this all another, I don't know, 20 or 30 different skills. Are like, okay, I think we got it now. And so that's why we did the low.
That's really interesting, because when I think about it too, like I was talking to a friend the other day, and I don't know what's happening with politics. I don't know what's happening with sports, right? I really don't. I mean, and I think to myself, what? Why don't I? It's like because it's not helping me achieve my goals, and it's nowhere in the equation of making me more successful in what I'm trying to do as an entrepreneur, as a leadership writer and speaker. So I just ignore it, and I don't know, like it, and I think we were talking about low performers. I think people can fall in a trap where they're just consuming all day long. They're consuming social media, they're consuming sports, they're consuming news, they're tied up their whole lives into consuming information. And I always feel like that the successful people of the world aren't consumers; they're creators. They build things, and I want to be a builder, not a consumer. And so when I talk to high school seniors, I do that every year. I talk to high school seniors at this one high school in my town, and that's one of the things I talk about is like be a creator, not a consumer. It's like a big important message is that we need more creators in the world and less just consumers, because we are all getting sucked into this. Like every once in a while I'll go like look at social media and I'll see what's happening in the world. I'm like, oh my goodness, why are these
Yeah.
people, like the college campuses are a train wreck right now? And I'm like,
Oh, I
what is
know.
going on? Like these people
Oh,
are supposed to be in college to be learning a skill set to come into the world to be successful, and they're running around building campsites or something. I'm not really sure what's going on, but it seems like we're
yeah.
we're getting ourselves distracted with the world.
Yeah, and when you look at what you're just touching on, um, the I guess the social media. I always tell my kids, I said, you're perpetuating somebody else's
Mm,
success. You know, like let's shift that. Who's going to perpetuate your success? Listen, altruism is one of the key skills of high performance. Like we want to help others grow and get better and be successful. But when you're just sitting there consuming, you're just putting money in everybody else's pocket and you're not doing
yeah.
anything for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And the systems are set up so well that you can just consume all day long. My boys are grown out of the house, but when TikTok was coming out, I could just see both of them were just sort of flipping through videos like nonstop. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? It's like there's so much to do. Why are you just scrolling videos? And I worry about that we get sucked into all these ways that can distract us from our vision, our goal, and what we were put on earth to do. I worry
Yeah,
about that. Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
too, man. I have a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old and bothers me every day.
Yeah. Well, good. I'm not alone in that camp. So, well, can anyone be a high performer? Is this something set aside for the Kobe Bryants of the world or the Elon Musk, or can anyone be a high performer?
That was the original question when we started this. Is high performance innate?
Mm,
And unequivocally, anyone can be a high performer.
mm,
Um, we have the guide, we have the pathway, we know how to do this. But there's two things that we can't give to anyone. Not even their parents can give it to them: desire and effort. If you
mm.
don't have desire and effort, man, you're not getting out of the starting gate. But if you do, you can take the steps to begin to improve. And it's not going to, this is not a light, high performance is not a light switch. It's a journey. It's a consistent evolution day after day after day. And so, you really have to understand that it is a journey, take those steps. And that's why that, like your routine, day after day after day, you're doing something to perpetuate your personal performance. That's why you're high performing in life.
Interesting. So it can be, but you got to have those first two criteria met to be able to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting because I do think that, you know, to do what we do is difficult, right? I mean, like, my career, I was a naval officer in a nuclear submarine, which meant I had to become a nuclear engineer, which I didn't even know what an engineer was. Before I went to engineering school, I didn't even know what that was. So, I mean, to be able to do that. So people say, like, I've had young people come to me and it's like, I want to be what you do. I want to do what you do. How did you do it? And I'm like, and I describe my journey and they're like, well, I don't want to do that much work. Well, I'm like, I don't know how else to get here. Like, this is how I did it. This
Yeah.
is, I don't know the shortcut is, I guess, what I was trying to say. I don't know if there's a shortcut to this.
There's no
It
hack.
takes perseverance. It takes hard work. It takes dedication. It takes a dream, like, you know, I tell the story. It took me 10 years from the day I decided I wanted to be a naval officer on a nuclear submarine until the day I did it. And
Wow.
so that's a 10-year journey as a young person. Most
Yeah.
people don't go on a 10-year journey as a young person to do the thing they dreamed about when they were a kid, like
Wow.
to be a firefighter or a surgeon or a police officer. Most people's kids, the dreams of a kid don't end up being reality. But mine happened to, and it was like the coolest thing I ever got to do because I got to do my dream. I lived my dream, which is pretty cool. Not many people get to do that.
No, no. And you're teaching these young individuals and you're teaching leaders, and to all the leaders who listen to your show, how many of us have had these people in our companies or that we work with that have the desire and have the effort, and yet we don't know the way to help them. We don't know how to get them to that next level. That's where that ninth stratum really comes in, where if you're ninth stratum, you know your process for a skill, and you can sit there and say, okay, step one, just do this, and do this today through Thursday, right? And then step two, you're going to do this, and we can help grow these individuals from maybe low performing to a high potential. And once they hit that high potential, I think they kick it into gear a little bit, and they become those high performers we always want. But again, desire and effort. If they have the desire and the effort to do the work, okay, let's lean into them and let's get after them.
I love that desire and effort. I do see that in people. Like I always say, they got their lights on. I can tell when I got an employee that their lights are on. They're looking around like they want to get better, and I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's get him a project. Let's get him doing, or get her doing something that is going to stretch their skills, get them to learn. And I love seeing some employees with their lights on and they're energized and want to do something different. So those are my favorite employees. And I love working with them and helping them achieve their dreams. It's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, those are the best.
One of the things that you mentioned is that you get to a certain point, you got to delegate. So you've got to delegate work to people. You've got some approaches to delegation that's kind of important, which is like kind of more about empowerment than versus just pure delegation. Tell us a little bit about, like we talked a little bit about developing people as part of what we do when you're at that ninth stratum. How should we be looking at delegation when we have those opportunities to delegate to people?
Yeah, well, I think it first starts at the leadership level where, we're going to get to these points where we're so busy and we've got so many things to do. And a lot of us get down and we go into the weeds and we do things that we probably shouldn't be doing. And at that point, we really need to learn how to delegate. We need to really hone our skills in delegation. And when we do delegate, we need to look at the people who can do the job, do it well, but also the people who want the opportunity to do something new, and that delegation of like, here's a task can then translate into empowerment, because when you give somebody something, they're either just going to do it and be like, okay, thanks, I don't ever want to do that again. Or they might be sitting there going, hey, I'm ready for that. Give me something. Like, let me prove myself. And that's when you can pass that ball off and somebody's like, hey, give me the ball, and they do something with it. Okay, now you're empowering. And so there is a dichotomy between delegation and empowerment. Delegation can sometimes be abused just to get the crap off your plate that you don't want to do, and you're going to push it off to somebody else. But if you really turn it and you really begin to see who you're delegating to and who has the skills and maybe the desire to do that specific task that to you may be mundane, but to them, it's like giving them a piece of gold. Then you turn delegation into empowerment.
I love that. I say in my books, give people a gift of a challenge. And I'm so thankful that I had a boss that gave me my first manufacturing plant at 32 years old. I should not have been given a manufacturing plant at 32 years old. And I probably should have failed, but he saw something in me, and I truly dove into it, and I loved it. And it became my career essentially after that. But we need to give people that opportunity to challenge them to get that. What you just said was an important data point. It either is, that's absolutely what I want to do, thank you for giving the opportunity, and they dive into it with everything like I did, or I didn't really like that I thought it would be one thing, it wasn't what I thought it would be, I really don't want to do that. And you have a really good data point, and that employee now knows, okay, maybe that's not the career path I want. Maybe it's a different career path. And so you work with them to find that next data point. So I think you never lose when you give people opportunities to do something maybe outside their comfort zone or a challenging assignment. You get a data point where they say, yeah, I loved it, thank you. Or yeah, that wasn't what I wanted to do. But either way, you win because you get that data point.
Yeah. And pushing people into their discomfort, I don't want to say that's fun, but it's fun to watch, especially when they lean into it and they go, yeah, okay, this hurts. So this doesn't feel good, but I'm going to do it anyways. And they get through it and you're like, and then you give them a pat on the back. You're like, hey, nice job.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
didn't like that. And I saw you struggle, but you got through it. So
Yeah. I love when I see that with employees when they just don't quit and they learn it and they figured it out. And I get really excited about that. I have one employee now in particular is just doing a phenomenal job, and he doesn't even realize how far he's come. He was a college graduate with no engineering experience, and he's doing like difficult engineering work right now, and it just cracks me up. He has no idea how difficult what he's doing it really is, and it's like because he won't give up, and he's just trying to learn. He's trying to, and he has an open mind. And I'm like, you're doing great. Just keep
that's
doing what you're
awesome.
doing. It's awesome to see. So I love
That
this
is so
kid.
cool.
So yeah. Um, so how how should people approach this book, and how can they use it to improve their performance? And who should be like the ones that are to buy this book and to read this book?
Yeah, I mean, the book is a criteria. It's a curriculum. I'm sorry. And so, it begins with the basics of performance. It's how are you showing up? How are you getting ready in the morning? You think like, what the hell does that have to do with performance? But that really begins to help you build your performance mindset,
Mm.
doing something and making sure you're doing it at a high level just by getting ready in the morning. Who am I going to see today? Who am I going to meet? And then it drives into different levels of performance. So we talk about communication, we talk about management of emotions, we talk about relationship building, organization and execution, the business head versus the emotional head,
Mm.
and then all the way up to visionary thinking and how everybody should be a visionary thinker. Because if you really think about it, if everyone in your company is a visionary thinker, what can that do for company growth at all
Mm.
levels? And so the book is for everyone. It could be the person coming out of college and just a little bit unsure of like how to behave in a workplace, or what truly matters in a workplace, or how do I get to that next level. It could be for an executive who's climbing the corporate ladder and just wants to be better than he or she was yesterday. And it's for very successful people who have hit that pinnacle of success and they just can't get to that next level and they don't
Mm.
know how. That book is for them. So, and it also it's for the person who might have got a pip, who might be
Yeah.
struggling a little bit and doesn't really know why. This is a good book for them to pick up and go, okay, here are some things I need to work on. And by the way, when I wrote the book, um, I wasn't putting it out there saying, well, I did this, so you do it because I'm successful. I lean heavily into the sciences because that was my background, and I love science, human biology. My dad was a psychologist. There's a lot of Jedi mind tricks played in my house as a kid. Um, but I broke everything down into tactical applications, little bite-sized things you can do each day for all the whole curriculum that will improve your performance over time. And it's not earth shattering. These are easy things to do that you can practice on a daily basis to improve your performance.
Mm. Such an important book, such an important subject, and we don't teach it enough. And so I'm glad to see that that we were able to get you on the show and talk about, provide a resource to our listeners where that, like, if you want to improve performance, what's the book you go to? This is the book you go to,
Yeah.
because this is the one that says, here's the curriculum, here's how you do it, here's some basic stuff that gets you to those different levels that in the process. This has been fantastic, Aaron. What final message would you like to leave with our listeners right now?
You have a lot of leaders who listen to your show. And one thing I always see with leaders is, again, they're very concerned about everything else in performance, the company's performance, the people's performance. I think one of the messages I want to leave is self-analysis. What can you do? What are you doing? How is your process every day? Like, what's your routine look like? Are you really perpetuating your own performance to get to that next level? Because as leaders, if we're high performing, we have a system and a process and a routine that others see, and they see us evolving, man, that's powerful. And so today, look at everyone should take a second and look at themselves and say, what am I going to do today to be better than I was yesterday? And if you do that, I think you can really begin to draw your own pathway to your next level of performance.
Fantastic. That's great advice for everybody's listening in. We look at everything else, but do we look at ourselves enough? So I love that. Do a little bit of self-analysis, self-reflection. Such an important piece of advice. This is fantastic. Aaron, how can our listeners find out more about you, your company, and this new book?
Yeah, the book's on Amazon. There's an audio book and there's the paperback book. And then you can also go to stratum-9.com to find out more about the performance-based skills. And there's also a self-assessment you can take on the 45 performance-based skills.
Oh, great. Fantastic. And is that free?
It is.
See, listeners, we always provide free stuff on this show. And here's another example of it. So there's a free survey that you can take to see how you do against those 45
Yep.
performance skill sets. So we're going to put links in the show notes for all of Aaron's resources. And again, I highly encourage you to check it out. Do this assessment, if anything, right? Learn from learn how you are and how you're doing in regards to these 45 different performance-based skills. See how you're doing, measure yourself, and reflect on how you can even get better. And I highly recommend this book if you're looking for a book to be that guide to help you become a high-performing leader, a high-performing person in your career. This is the book. We've got a resource for you. This is why we bring guests like Aaron on the show, so you have these resources that you can turn to. Aaron, I want to thank you for coming on the show and sharing this really incredible book and this concept that you have created and this company you've created, because I think it's really important. So thanks for coming on the show, and thank you for sharing this important information.
Yeah, thanks for doing everything you're doing, John. You are a Ninth Stratum podcast host. So keep it up. Keep up the great work.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for the compliment. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and share so we can continue to build a world with better bosses. Until next time, this is John Rennie saying take care and lead well.